Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss about the file transfer protocol FTP. So transferring a file from one system to other, it is a common task in the internet environment. Okay. So and this can be done with the help of FTP, that is file transfer protocol. Here the file transfer protocol is a standard mechanism provided by TCP or IP for copying a file from one host to another. Okay, so this is a simple approach of transferring a file from one system to another, but it also has some problems to be dealt with. So if two different systems may have different file name conventions, and they may have different directory structure, and they may have different way of representing the text or data. So all these problems can be solved with the help of FTP. So using FTP, file transfer can be a simple approach, and it can be done with an elegant manner. So here it establishes two connection. One is that data transfer connection, other one is a control connection. So so by this way, it is differ from the other client server program, client server application program. And also here FTP uses two well-known ports. One is that port 20 is used for data connection, and port 21 is used for the control connection. This diagram, it shows a basic model of FTP. Okay, here this client has three components. One is that user interface, control process, and data transfer process. And the server has two components. One is a control process, another one is a data transfer process. Here the control connection is established between these two control processes. Likewise, the data connection, it is established between these two data transfer process. And also, once the control connection is established and this connection remains open, that is remains connected throughout the FTP session. Okay, so the data connection is open and then closed after the file transfer has happened. Okay, once the file gets transferred, it just open and then it gets closed. So first, let us see what is control connection. Here, at first step, a server, it issues the passive open using a port number 21 and it waits for the client side. Okay, and the second step, the control process, it issues the active open by using an ephemeral port and it establishes the connection. And also, once the connection is established, it is open and it remains connected, that is open through the FTP and FTP session. And the data connection is that here, at first the client sends a passive open. So in the previous control connection, server issues the passive open, but here the client is issuing a passive open, okay, by using an ephemeral port. The second step, again the client using the control connection, it just sends its ephemeral port number to the server. So the third step is the server, it issues the active open using the port number 20, and also it receives the ephemeral port number from the client side. And the communication. So once the connection is established, it has to communicate with the different types of computers. So these computers may use different operating system and different file structures and different file formats and everything. So this communication process, two different approaches. One is that communication over the control connection, and second one is that communication over the data connection. First, let us see how the communication over the control connection. Okay. So the FTP uses the same approach as Telnet or SMTP to communicate across the control connection. Here, it uses NVT ASCII character set. Okay. So communication is achieved through commands and responses. Okay. So likewise, communication over data connection. Here, the purpose and implementation of the data connection are different from that of the control connection. So transferring file should be done with the data connection, and also before transferring any file, the client must ensure it has to define the three types of attributes. One is that file type, okay, type of file to be transferred, and the structure of the data and the transmission mode. So these three attributes should be defined by the client before transferring any files. So let us see the first step. First thing is that file type. Here, FTP can transfer one of the following file types across the data connection. It can use any of the following file types. One is that ASCII file, and second one is that EBCDIC file, and then third one is the image file. So first one is that ASCII file. It is a default format for transferring text files, and also here each character is encoded using NVT ASCII. Okay, it is using the NVT ASCII character set. whereas the second one is that EBCDIC file. So if one or both ends of the connection uses these ABCDIC encoding, then the file can be transferred using EBCDIC encoding. The third one is that image file. It is also a default format for transferring the binary files. Okay. So second one is that data structure. Here the FTP can transfer a file across the data connection using one of these file structure format. Okay, through the data connection. So first one is that file structure. So file structure is it has no structure. It's just a continuous stream of bytes. And second one is that record structure. Here the file is divided into records, and also this can be used only with the text files. Third one is a page structure. Here the file is going to be divided into pages, and at each page it is having a page number and the page header. Okay, so all this page can be stored and it can be accessed randomly or sequentially. Since it having the page number, page header can be accessed. Third one is the transmission mode. Here again, FTP can transfer a file across the data connection through any type of mode. You can follow the any types. One is that stream mode, block mode, and the third one is that compressed mode. Stream mode is that it is a default mode, and also here the data are delivered from FTP to TCP as a continuous stream of bytes, and also here TCP has the responsibility for chopping the data into segments with of appropriate size. Okay, and the second one is the block mode. Here the data can be delivered from FTP to TCP in terms of blocks. So in this case, each block is preceded by a 3-byte header. So first byte is called as block descriptor. The next 2 bytes defines the size of the block in bytes. Okay, so first byte is the block descriptor, and the next 2 bytes, rest of the bytes defines the size of the block in bytes. And the third one is the transmission mode. The transmission mode, compressed mode. Okay, so this, for example, the file is big and data has to be compressed. In this case, data can be compressed, and the compression method normally used in run length encoding. So the next one is that command processing. So command processing is that we have seen how the control connection is established between these two control process client and the control process server. So once this connection is established, this control connection is open entire the FTP session. Okay, and also during this communication, commands are sent from the client, because client why the client is issuing commands is that the file is going to be transferred from the client side. So client is issuing the commands. So commands are sent from the client to the server, and the responses are sent from the server to the client. And also these are the types of commands which is used in the command processing. So one is the access commands, the second one is the file management commands, third one is the data formatting commands, fourth one is the port defining commands, fifth one is miscellaneous commands. At last, so after a connection is established, after the communication is established between the two connections, and the command is sent from the client, at last a file is going to be transferred. So before transferring a file, we need to remember 3 things. One is that a file is to be copied from the server to the client. That is called download. Okay, it is also called as retrieving a file. Okay, and it is done under the supervision of RETR command. Second one is that a file is to be copied from the client to the server, that is uploading. This is called as storing file. It is done using STOR command. Then a list of directory of file names which is to be sent from the server to the client, and this is done using the list command. Okay, so these 3 points are very important while transferring a file. So in this video, we have learned about what is FTP and how 2 connections can be established, and how the communications over these 2 connections can be performed, and how the commands and how the response to be sent from the client to server and from the server to the client, and at last the file transfer, how the file is going to be transferred from the client and the server. And hope you all have understand the topic FTP, and thanks for watching the video.